Hello and welcome to the Leading with Lean podcast. My name's Philip Holt, author of Leading with Lean, The Simplicity of Lean, and Leading Lean by Living Lean. And in this podcast, I narrate all three of my books, chapter by chapter, in which I share with you my over 30 years of experience as a lean leader across many companies globally. The Simplicity of Lean, Chapter 12, Hoshin Kanri. What is Hoshin Kanri? One of the biggest issues that most organisations face is initiative overload. I often joke that most companies are like a child in a sweet shop, a candy store, with so much to choose from that they cannot choose, then finally eating too much and becoming ill. This means that they take on too many projects and fail to complete them on time and to the right quality level, with disparate objectives across teams and the overloading and potential burnout of their people. The implementation of Hoshin Kanri, or policy deployment, is the most effective way to ensure that the organisation doesn't bite off more than it can chew, and that its people are aligned towards delivering the same objectives. This involves learning how to say the intelligent no, which means not accepting some requests, but with an intelligent explanation as to why and how the requester's needs might be met in a different way. Although this is something best implemented at the organisational level, it doesn't prevent individual teams from garnering benefit from its implementation, as while they will find alignment issues where other teams are not utilising Hoshin Kanri, the way that they deal with this will still be significantly better than they were doing previously. They will also be able to act as a role model of Hoshin Kanri and help to persuade other teams and ultimately the whole organisation to adopt this way of working. Hoshin Kanri is a way to align the team with an uncompromising focus on the critical few breakthrough objectives that are beyond the elements required to run the business as usual. It is a process used to translate vision into mid-term objectives, 3 to 5 years, assign responsibility, allocate resources, and measure the progress. It should ideally start from the top of the organisation and cascade down to the point of impact. Synonyms for Hoshin Kanri are policy deployment, strategy deployment, and Hoshin planning. And in the book, you'll see a graphic of performance on the y-axis, time on the x-axis, and a combination of Kaizen, making gradual improvement, and Kaikaku, or step change improvement, making big step changes, as the name suggests. Whilst daily management should drive the improvements made through our Kaizen culture, incremental improvement doesn't provide us with sufficient improvement to make the long-term step change improvement that any sustainable organisation requires. Hoshin Kanri therefore provides what in Japanese is lesser known Kaikaku improvement, meaning radical improvement. Hoshin Kanri is a complementary discipline to daily management in that both of them need to be undertaken integrally and with full cognizance of the available resources and skills available to deliver. And what you'll see in the book is a combination of daily management and Hoshin Kanri, showing the two sides of this coin, showing that it's about doing both. It's about doing daily management and Hoshin Kanri. And when we have this and situation, we create this high performance culture. Hoshin Kanri is a system by which breakthrough improvement is delivered, which can be defined as 1. Representing a significant change in process improvement as seen through the eyes of the customer. 2. Requiring the organisation to stretch itself. 3. Needing cross-functional effort. 4. Something for which there is no current standard or system in place. 5. It's currently not known how to do it. And then finally, delivering a big win, providing a significant competitive advantage. The amount of time that team members at different levels of the organisation spend on daily management and Hoshin Kanri will depend upon the level that they sit. Those on the shop floor or office floor will spend most of their time on daily management activity, whilst top management ought to be spending most of their time on Hoshin Kanri activity. That said, despite the need for executives to be spending most of the time on Hoshin activities, few organisations use it in one form or another, as the statistics demonstrate. Less than 15% of companies routinely track how they perform over how they thought they were going to perform. 95% of employees don't understand their company's strategy. Less than 27% of employees have access to their company's strategic plan. 86% of executive teams spend less than 1 hour a month reviewing strategy, and 90% of companies fail to execute their strategies successfully. In the book, what you'll see is another graphic where it shows daily management, Kaizen, and breakthrough, and the amount of time each level in the organisation should be spending on this, from the frontline associate up to the top management. And it shows that top management in an ideal situation should be spending about 3/4 of their time on the breakthrough activity, whereas the frontline associate should be spending most of their time, 90%, on daily management and the rest on Kaizen. Management by objectives versus Hoshin Kanri. To avoid any doubt, Hoshin Kanri is not management by objectives, as the criteria for success are just as much about how results are achieved as they are about the results that are achieved. And what you'll see in the book is a 2x2 matrix which shows on the x-axis the how we do it, the process, on the y-axis the what, the result that we achieve, and it basically shows that if you're in the bottom left-hand corner you have a bad process and a bad result, so that's a bad outcome. If you're on the right-hand bottom side, you've got a good process but a bad result. You've not implemented it properly. The top left, you've got a good result but a bad process. It's okay, but it's not sustainable. And then the top right is where we want to get to. That's the sweet spot. That's a good process with a good result. That's a good outcome. That's a good and sustainable process. The lean leader wants the team members to achieve their results in a manner that is sustainable and results in organisational learning, such that it can be shared across the organisation and the knowledge base expanded. Last-minute dashes to the finish or to get results and cutting corners to do so are unsustainable and will not be viewed as success in the Hoshin Kanri review. To facilitate and support this, the Hoshin Kanri process, described in more detail later, provides the teams with a why and what, explaining how the objectives fit into the strategy of the business, organisational unit or team, and the level of improvement required, but within limits allows the team to figure out how best to achieve the result. Via the catchball approach process, the teams and their leadership discuss their proposals and iterate until the objective and approach is agreed. They then allow the team to get on with it, reviewing regularly, short interval control, to ensure that any divergence or challenges are caught early and problems solved. The 5 steps of the X matrix. The X matrix is a fantastic example of visual management and A3 thinking, as it communicates in one page the strategic objectives of the organisation, its annualised goals towards those objectives, the specific initiatives that will deliver the goals, the targets and the owners of the initiatives. It is elegant and effective in its design, and it's one of my favourite communication tools. There are 5 steps required to populate the X matrix, and following these thoroughly will result in a strategy deployment that will drive the organisational development. And in the book you'll see a graphic of a Hoshin X matrix. The first step is breakthrough objectives. The starting point for Hoshin Kanri is the end of the strategy development. Once the organisation knows what its strategy is, Hoshin Kanri provides the lean vehicle that will deliver it successfully and sustainably. The first section details the breakthrough objectives, and they should be articulated in a meaningful way that are 1. Linked directly to the corporate strategy, significantly beneficial in growth, quality, delivery, cash or cost. Thirdly, customer value focused. Fourthly, significant in competitive advantage. Fifthly, multifunctional to deliver. And then finally, defined as a gap. Baseline performance is from 2. For example, by 2023, we will have increased sales in the APAC region from $260 million per year to $450 million per year, maintaining EBITDA at 14%. Secondly, we put our annual objectives in there. And annual objectives are essentially a derivation of the breakthrough objectives, only reduced to the amount that will be achieved within the next year. There are various ways of defining the amount that will be achieved in each year, the simple approach being to straight line it from the current to 5-year target. For example, as above, a $38 million improvement per year would result in the target of $450 million. However, in some cases, groundwork will need to be undertaken in the first year or two to enable the overall target. and so smaller increments might be targeted in year 1 or 2, with years 3, 4 and 5 being more significant. This is valid provided that hockey stick planning is avoided, where lower or even negative improvement is targeted for the first couple of years, with the hope of achieving the overall target later down the line. The approach for the annual objectives is A. Copy text from the strategic objectives, but reduce to 1 year. B. Set a realistic aggressive goal, avoiding under-targeting in the first year. Ask yourself, is it stretched enough? Does it create competitive advantage? And does it create significant operating improvement? And then finally, define it as a gap. What's the baseline performance and what do we want to achieve? The third element is setting the annual improvement priorities. The AIPs are the initiatives that will be undertaken by the business to achieve its annual objectives. This is where the team members who will be charged with delivering the improvement take ownership, as they must problem solve to understand what is preventing the organisation from achieving its objective. What countermeasures are required to deliver the strategic objective? In the sales example, the commercial team would work on the root causes of why sales are at $260 million and not $450 million in the APAC region. However, as mentioned earlier, this is a cross-functional effort, and so the team will be made up of not only commercial people, but also marketing, supply chain, manufacturing, development, engineering, etc., who will deep dive into the reasons for the gap and determine the countermeasures that they will put in place. This will form their AIP. The AIP will 1. Determine which key processes drive the performance needle with the greatest impact. Secondly, identify root causes, use problem solving to find ways to bridge the gap. Thirdly, establish if those countermeasures will lead to a sustainable results-orientated process. Fourthly, begin with an action verb, e.g. reduce or increase. And finally, require an iterative approach, catchball, which will change as a result of action plans. In our sales example, an AIP might be increase the penetration of sales outlets in China from 1,200 to 3,500 in the Tier 1 and Tier 2 cities by the end of 2019. There will possibly be more than one AIP per annual objective. The fourth step is to implement the targets to improve, the TTIs. The TTIs are essentially the Hoshin Kanri KPIs and are the target metrics by the end of that annual objective cycle at the granularity of the AIPs. That is to say that for each AIP there will be multiple metrics and the targets of those are captured in this section. TTIs must achieve a number of things. Firstly, they must measure progress. Secondly, they must measure the effectiveness of each improvement priority. Third thing is they should use both leading and lagging indicators. Next, they should be able to be broken down into monthly increments. Fifth one is they should have a format of from X to Y by date Z. The penultimate one is that they should exceed budget targets. They ought to be stretching targets aimed at overreaching the normal budgeting targets. And then finally, they shouldn't be an automatic straight line. They must reflect the activities and the milestones of the AIP. The fifth element is to allocate resources and accountability. The resources required to deliver all of the AIPs should be listed in this section, taking care to focus on the cross-functional requirements of delivering breakthrough improvement. The criteria are, it should be a cross-functional team that will deliver the AIP. It should identify the primary and secondary resources, primary being the full-time members of the team, and secondary being part-time members required for specific deliverables or advice. They should have one clear owner. And then finally, all resources must have the capacity and have been committed by the resource owner. So there is a final element, a sixth element if you want, which is connecting the dots. So there is a final element which is to check that it all works by ensuring that there is a good correlation across the sections. So this is a check stage, and this is done via the correlation dots, a solid dot being put in where there is a primary correlation and an open circle where there is a secondary correlation. In the example earlier, the strategic objective is to achieve the $450 million by 2023, which would have a strong correlation to the annual objective of achieving $298 million by the end of 2019. The AIP of increasing penetration of sales outlets in China would have a strong correlation to that annual objective. And then further, the TTIs that are targeted in the AIP would have dots correlating them, as would the resources that will deliver the AIP. And when fully populated, it will be clear to all what is being targeted, how it will be achieved, who will do it, and how much improvement success will bring. Cascading the X matrix. In any organisation larger than a few dozen people, the X matrix will need to be cascaded, as the granularity of the AIPs at the senior leadership level will be insufficient to execute upon. We therefore need to take the top level X matrix and cascade it into the organisation. The way in which we do this is straightforward, as we take the top level X matrix and essentially rotate it backwards by 90 degrees, which provides a level 2 X matrix which contains the annual objectives at the bottom position, the AIPs at the left hand side, position 2, and leaves the top section, position 3, free to develop the next level of AIPs. And what you'll see in the book is a visualization of the process I've just described. This is undertaken until the level at which the real work will happen, at which point action plans are created to deliver against the AIPs. Monthly review. By now it ought not to be a surprise that I once again speak about the importance of short interval control in Hoshin Kanri, as it is a core theme of lean thinking. In Hoshin Kanri, we would expect the following review cadence to exist. Daily, the AIP team working on the initiative and having daily stand-ups to align across the team. Weekly, the AIP owner reviews progress with the team, ensuring that any escalations that haven't happened during the week have been actioned. Monthly, senior leadership review with the AIP owners and the initiative leads, assessing the status and any escalations that have not yet been made or problem-solving actions which are overdue. To support the review, the performance metrics must be tracked and also progressive targets set. A bowling chart is usually used, which breaks the annual targets into monthly segments and targets are set per month. This is important as it is common for teams to have a single annual target which they work towards for the end of the year. However, it's unclear whether they are going to achieve it until the end of the year, and so the bowling chart provides clear visibility on a monthly basis as to whether the team are delivering to plan or not. And in the book, you'll see a visualization of a bowling chart. I hope that this chapter has inspired you toward the use of Hoshin Kanri, as I can quite honestly say that I've never benchmarked a company that I would consider world-class that did not have effective Hoshin Kanri in place. It's therefore certainly not an area of lean thinking that can be ignored. And the final statement in the chapter is, excellence is not a skill, it is an attitude. Ralph Marston.